When I saw her name flash on my phone after 8 years, my heart froze. My ex-husband's mom, the woman who once called me her daughter, was suddenly calling me again. I thought she must have dialed the wrong number, but what she told me next left me speechless. I met Daniel when I was 24. He was charming, ambitious, and seemed to have the perfect life. From the very beginning, his family welcomed me, especially his mom, Mrs. Parker. She treated me like her own daughter. We used to spend weekends baking together, laughing over little mistakes in the kitchen. We'd sit with cups of coffee, sharing stories about our childhoods. She would always say, "I finally have the daughter I always wanted." At first, everything felt perfect. I thought I had found my place, my family, my home. But as time went on, things began to change. Daniel grew distant. He became short-tempered over small things. He started coming home late with excuses that never made sense. Even Mrs. Parker noticed it. I could see the worry in her eyes. But she stayed quiet, like she was holding on to a secret too heavy to share. And then, one night, everything came crashing down. I still remember that night like it was yesterday. Everything seemed normal when I got home, but there was this uneasy feeling I couldn't shake. Daniel was acting strange, avoiding my questions and texting on his phone constantly. Something inside me told me something was wrong. I hesitated, but finally I looked at his phone. And that's when I saw it. Messages from another woman, long flirty messages that made my chest tighten and my hands shake. I confronted him immediately. I asked him why, and all he did was look at me blankly. There was no guilt, no apology, just silence. Then he said, "We aren't working anymore." Those words hit me harder than anything else ever had. The man I loved, the life I thought we were building together. It all vanished in an instant. Within a few weeks, Daniel moved out. Just like that, the home we shared felt empty, cold, and wrong. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I couldn't bear it. Mrs. Parker tried reaching out to me, worried and probably feeling guilty for not noticing sooner. But I wasn't ready. I blocked her calls. I blocked Daniel. I wanted to disappear from all of it, from the family I once loved, from the memories I couldn't escape. For weeks I walked around in a fog. I didn't cry all the time, but the hurt was always there, just under the surface. I replayed everything in my head, wondering how someone I trusted so completely could betray me so easily. And just like that, a chapter of my life that I thought would last forever ended. I was left with nothing but questions, pain, and a quiet longing for the love I thought I had. Years passed and slowly I tried to rebuild my life. I moved to a new city, started a new job, and surrounded myself with people who cared about me. At first, I told myself I was over Daniel. I focused on work, on friends, on little joys that made life feel lighter. But it wasn't easy. Sometimes when I was alone, memories would sneak in. The laughter we shared, the dreams we made, even the warmth of Mrs. Parker's hugs. I realized moving on wasn't about forgetting. It was about learning to live with the pain and still find happiness. I heard through mutual friends that Daniel had remarried. Part of me was curious, part of me didn't care at all. I told myself it shouldn't matter. And yet, a tiny, stubborn part of me wondered if he was truly happy. Mrs. Parker never tried to contact me again. I didn't reach out either. It was as if that chapter of my life was sealed, locked away behind a door I didn't want to open. I threw myself into my life. My work, my passions, my small victories. I learned to laugh again, to feel alive again. And slowly I started believing that maybe, just maybe, life could be good even after heartbreak. But I never expected that one phone call, 8 years later, to turn everything upside down again. It was a regular day at work when my phone buzzed with an unknown number. At first I almost ignored it. But something made me answer. The voice on the other end was soft, familiar, yet unexpected. "Sweetheart, it's me. Mrs. Parker," she said. My heart stopped. I hadn't heard that voice in 8 years. The woman who once called me her daughter, who had shared so many moments of my life, was suddenly on the line. I froze. My mind raced with questions. Why now? After all this time? What could she possibly want? Her voice trembled as she spoke. I need to tell you something about Daniel and his new wife." For a moment I couldn't breathe. My stomach tightened. Part of me wanted to hang up. Part of me wanted to listen, even if it hurt. I sat down, gripping my desk, waiting for her words. She paused as if choosing them carefully. Then she spoke, and my heart began to pound faster. Everything I thought I had left behind, every memory I buried deep, suddenly came rushing back. This call, it was unexpected, overwhelming, and I knew somehow it would change everything I thought I knew. Mrs. Parker's voice was quiet, almost hesitant, but what she said next made my heart skip a beat. She told me that Daniel's new marriage wasn't what it seemed. His wife, the woman he had left me for, was treating him terribly. She insulted him constantly, controlled every decision he made, and refused to let anyone close to him. For a moment I couldn't believe it. Part of me felt a strange mix of relief and disbelief. After all these years I had imagined him happy moving on. But hearing this I realized things weren't as perfect as I thought. Then Mrs. Parker said something I'll never forget. "He doesn't even look happy. The light in his eyes, it's gone. And sometimes, he talks about you." Her words hit me like a wave. I didn't know what to feel, anger, sadness, or a strange sense of vindication. 8 years of silence, of moving on, of pretending he didn't matter. And suddenly, it all came rushing back. She explained that she had carried her own guilt for years. She had watched me hurt and had stayed quiet, thinking it wasn't her place. Now she wanted me to know the truth, to understand that Daniel's choices didn't define me, and that life had moved differently for all of us. I stayed quiet, listening, letting every word sink in. Part of me was shocked, yes. But another part felt a strange kind of closure. After all this time I realized the story wasn't just about him. It was about me, my life, and how far I had come. After she shared everything, Mrs. Parker's voice softened. She apologized, not for what Daniel had done but for not standing up for me when it happened. "You deserved better. You always did," she said. Hearing her words, something inside me shifted. For the first time in years I felt a sense of understanding. She had carried her own guilt, her own sadness all this time just as I had carried mine. We talked for nearly an hour about life, about mistakes, about how time changes people. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I just listened. And slowly I realized I wasn't angry anymore. The pain that had lingered for 8 years didn't vanish completely, but it felt lighter somehow. When we finally hung up, I sat in silence. I thought about the life I had built, the lessons I had learned, and the strength I had found in myself. Mrs. Parker's call didn't bring back the past, and it didn't change Daniel or his choices. But it reminded me that closure sometimes comes from unexpected places. It reminded me that I had survived, that I had grown stronger, and that even after heartbreak it was possible to feel peace again. I didn't know if I would ever speak to her again. But I knew this: the past no longer held power over me. And for the first time in a long time I felt free. Sometimes closure doesn't come from the person who hurt you. Sometimes it comes from someone who watched it happen, and finally admits the truth. Hearing Mrs. Parker's voice after 8 years reminded me of that. It reminded me that life moves on even when we think the pain will never end. It reminded me that people we loved and lost don't always define our happiness. I realized something important that day. The past may shape us, but it doesn't have to hold us back. The people who hurt us, the choices they made, the mistakes, they all become part of a story we survived. I'll always remember that call, not because of what she said about Daniel or his new wife, but because it reminded me of my own strength, my own journey, and how far I've come. If you've ever been hurt, if you've ever felt abandoned or betrayed, remember this. One day you'll look back and the pain won't hurt the same way anymore. One day you'll feel free. And that freedom is worth everything.